Hello, welcome to another live episode of Over the Bars Euro 2020 show, live on YouTube. Got Mark joining me again this evening to run through everything that's all Euro 2020. It's a bit of big news that's happened over the last 24 hours, isn't there? So it's only right we cover that with you guys. I was sad to preview a small matter of a final on Sunday. So yeah, we'll jump straight into it. So just to recap the scores, just in case you have missed them, you've been living under a rock the last 2 days. So we had Italy progressing to the final after beating Spain 4-2 on penalties after the game finished 1-1 in normal time. And obviously we had England coming out victorious last night against Denmark after extra time, again 2-1 in that one. And England progressing to their first major final in 55 years. But yeah, long wait, finally over. We're going to start, obviously, with England. It's the big one. It's the one we were all glued to yesterday evening. Mark, come straight to you on it. What did you make of the game?
Yeah, well, I think it was kind of like a game of two halves, really, for me, really. Well, I guess three halves if you include the extra time as well. I think, like, the first half, it was just a disaster. I think England started really well the first 10, 15 minutes. I think, obviously, Sterling had a couple of chances. Kane put that really, really good ball in where I think if Sterling was, like, half a metre taller, he would have knocked it in, you know. But I think, yeah, they started well. It was looking pretty confident. But then I don't know what happened between, say, like 15, 17 minutes and when Denmark scored. I thought that was England's poorest 15 minutes or 20 minutes of the whole tournament by a distance, to be honest with you. I don't know what Pickford was doing, to be honest with you, with his kicking. Like, he gave 2 or 3 shocking kicks straight to Denmark players, which could, if Braithwaite was a better finisher, I think would have been 1-0 down before the goal. But I think the other point was that the referee was giving free kicks for absolutely everything in this game as well. So I think it was one of those. I didn't really like the referee Macauley's performance, to be honest with you, even though he did give us the penalty in the end. I thought the free kick to the Denmark goal was probably a little bit soft, to be honest with you, as well. I mean, he was giving just everything, wasn't he, though, that ref, really? Then, obviously, the Damsgaard free kick was just absolutely amazing, really. It was an outstanding free kick. Nothing Pickford could have done, really. But then, I mean, I was worried at that point, to be honest. I was thinking England are not playing that well at the moment. Obviously, Denmark are ahead. They're going to be hard to break down. But then I think it was the perfect reaction, really, wasn't it? I mean, they created the chance. Obviously, Saka putting the ball in. I mean, I was criticising Saka just before that goal as well, saying he shouldn't have been starting. Then, obviously, Sterling would have tapped it in, but Simon Kjaer kind of knocked it in to the back of his own net. Then I think, yeah, England finished the half pretty strong, possibly had a couple of half chances. Then I think the second half was just it was like the Kasper Schmeichel show, really, wasn't it? I think Denmark completely lost their legs for me. Like, they just looked absolutely knackered. They could barely run. I think, like, England should have finished it within 90 minutes for me, really. They had a lot of half chances, a lot of misplaced passes in good positions and things like that. But then, yeah, I mean, the extra time was just, like, perfect, really, for England as well. It was more of the same as the last 20 minutes of the normal time. And I think, yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of people throughout Europe are saying the penalty was a joke and stuff, but I think it was in keeping of the game from the referee, in my opinion. He gave absolutely everything in that game to both teams, really. I even said to my girlfriend, I said, like, a gust of wind. He gave a free kick for a gust of wind blowing a player over this ref. Then he gives the penalty. I agree that if I was a Denmark fan, I would be pretty cheesed off, to be honest with you, if that had gone against me. But I mean, yeah, obviously Schmeichel saves it, then Kane taps in the rebound. And but for me, I think, yeah, England deserved the win. I don't think any Denmark fan or player could really argue with that. It probably wasn't our best performance of the tournament, but at the end of the day, it's the first semi-final we've won 55 years. So we've got to kind of celebrate it, really.
So I think many England fans will really care about the performance. I think just getting that result is the most important, especially in the semi-final. You just got to do what needs to be done to get the win. Don't even get you into that final. And it's obviously all on the day on Sunday, but I think I might have to disagree with Mark on the Damsgaard goal. It was a great free kick, but I feel like Pickford should probably have done a little bit better with it.
Maybe
it wasn't far into the corner. I think it was fairly central. I think, yeah, it was a great strike, but Pickford probably could have done a little bit better. But I think that's just me being a little bit nitpicky there. I agree with you saying about Saka as well. Something I said Sacco for some reason. Yes, Saka. He did grow into the game, weren't the best of starts, but the run he made and then obviously the pass by Kane was a great bit of football, and Sterling making another great run. Obviously, Kjaer got the own goal, but obviously the pressure from Sterling, if Mcguire wouldn't have got to it. Sterling was there to have the tapping, weren't he? But yeah, I think Denmark as a whole, they won't have many complaints in terms of the result. Obviously, like you said, Mark, they're not going to be happy in terms of the manner of the penalty. But again, like you said, it kept in touch with the game. And some of the calls from that referee, I think I remember saying last night to you about the Harry Mcguire yellow card. That was ridiculous to stop, given some of the tackles and challenges other players had gotten away with and what happened later on in the game. I was quite disappointed to see Mcguire get a yellow card for that. Yeah. Thankfully, it doesn't mean he'll miss a final or anything like that. But yeah, I thought it was quite poor. That yellow. The main thing is England now in that final. In terms of that performance, Mike, is there anyone that stood out particularly for you last night? I think it was an overall strong team performance.
Yeah, I would say the main men, it's got to be Sterling and Kane for me, to be honest with you. I thought Kane was outstanding. He's a different man from what he was earlier in the tournament. You can see fully back on confidence and form now. Obviously, the assist for the the pre-assist, as they say, for the first goal was outstanding, really. He kind of put it on a plate for Stacker to put an easy ball into Sterling, really. Obviously, the own goal, as you said. But yeah, I think also Sterling was just absolutely brilliant. It's just a pity because he would be really one of the best players in the world for me if he could. I mean, his dribbling and his runs are just second to none, really, aren't they? Really unbelievable. And especially when Denmark were putting a bit of pressure on, he was the one that was kind of relieving the pressure at the end of the game. I thought he was just brilliant, to be honest. I thought the Walker was also good. I thought Mcguire in the second half was really, really good as well. I thought his first half wasn't great, Mcguire, but the second half was brilliant. I thought Walker, as I say, was also pretty good. I think probably the only two players I would slightly say weren't that great were probably Pickford. He had a poor game, to be honest, Pickford. There's no question about that. He didn't kind of instill any confidence into the defence. And I would say Stones also probably didn't have his best game. He also looked a little bit dodgy at some parts. But the rest of the team were fantastic, really, I would say.
Yeah, I thought Kyle Walker last night were absolutely tremendous. Obviously, the names you mentioned are the obvious ones that you're going to go to. I thought Kyle Walker last night was absolutely incredible. I think he allows the pace that he's got into defensive awareness. He allows Mcguire to make bold runs, to be able to dart into midfield and pick out a pass, and knowing that you've got the pace of Walker behind just in case anything goes wrong is a great asset to England. I think he really stood up and was carried for last night. Denmark, I think they'll be, in terms of their performances, there wasn't really many standouts. When you look at the stats, overall stat for in grand total they had 6 attempts and 3 on target, and the majority of those came in that first half, 4 attempts and 2 on target, and then second half only 1 attempt and that was on target, compared to England's overall of 21 shots on target. So would you go as far as saying England dominated that game out once they got that equaliser? It was because for me that second half was all one-way traffic. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, as I say, I think from the second half and the extra time, I thought England were really good. They were back to the kind of level of performance we saw against Germany and the Ukraine. I think the first half, no, that wasn't good enough for large parts for me in the first half. I've got to, especially as I say, from Pickford was just absolutely atrocious in that first half. And I think if that was against a side like Italy with the likes of Immobile and the like, I think he could be punished more than what obviously the likes of Braithwaite and Dahlberg could do, which obviously they couldn't manage to find the way through those mistakes from Pickford. But yeah, I think after that it was a really dominant performance, really. I think the fans obviously helped massively. I mean, the fans are absolutely bang behind the team, I mean, it's I think earlier in the tournament, I remember saying that I was really disappointed with the crowd, to be honest with you, because I think they didn't seem that up for it in the group stage games. I know there were only 25,000, but still there wasn't much noise, much atmosphere. But obviously, since the Germany game, it's just completely changed now. And the fans are 500% behind the team. And the atmosphere was just unbelievable last night, really. Even a level up from the Germany game, I would say. And I think that helped the team. I think it was also helped the fact that Denmark really ran out of legs at the end of the day, didn't they? I think, I definitely think it's a case of that. They didn't play well, really, in the second half and the extra time, to be honest with you. But, yeah, I thought, to be honest, it wasn't the best performance I've ever seen from England, but I think in a semi-final with that level of pressure, it was definitely an acceptable and a good performance, really, I would say, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's going back to your point about the crowd. I think there was a bit of a lull to think that we could actually go far in this tournament. I think as the tournament's gone on, people start to believe a lot more. But from experience, so I've been in Wembley when there's only like 25, 30,000 there when Rochdale played Stockport in the League Two playoff final. That about 13 years ago, I think that were now. Still amount of numbers, it is very, very hard to generate an atmosphere in a bowl-like stadium like that with such few numbers. So I can kind of understand why the atmosphere is a little bit flat in the group stage, but the Germany crowd and then obviously last night was an absolute class above, weren't it? But would you say that crowd's integral to the fact that we're in the final match? Say if that England-Denmark game say would have took place in Rome again, for example, do you think we could have been talking about a different result today?
I'm not sure about against Denmark. I think we'd have found a way to beat Denmark regardless, to be honest. Because I think there is ultimately, as it showed last night, there is a bit of a class difference at the end of the day between those two. But I definitely think Sunday's final could be influenced. There's no doubt about that. I think if it was in Rome, it'd be the opposite way around. You know, their fans would be absolutely like raucous, booing the England anthem, all this stuff. This kind of, I mean, obviously it's not really the best sportsmanship, and England have been getting a lot of stick for the booing of anthems and things, but at the end of the day, after the amount of years of suffering that England have had, you can kind of understand it in a way, really. You know, I know that the Germans were really, really cheesed off with the fact that we booed their anthem and stuff. They were really offended by that, I think, and I think obviously they will do it against Italy again on Sunday without doubt. And I think stuff like that, it fires the players up even more, you know, and obviously the support in general is brilliant at the minute, and I think it's definitely giving England the edge, home advantage. As we see time after time in football, it is massive, really. So,
yeah, I'm not a fan of this whole booing the national anthems. I just think it's a little bit classless, and I just don't understand why people feel the need to boo a national anthem. If anything, I think like you saying, it fires players up. I don't know if you meant our players or theirs, but I just think it's a bit counterproductive because if I was an English player and I'm playing in Rome, for example, and got 50,000 Italians booing "God Save the Queen," I know that cheesed me off. It definitely fired me up a little bit more. I'm not saying I'm a huge monarchy when I say like "God Save the Queen," but it's actually like your national identity. And if I had to hear other people booing our national, I think it'd fire me up a little bit to put on a bit more of a better show. Just a couple more things to move on to the second semi-final. One thing I do want to cover, Mark, was obviously Denmark have had an incredible run in this tournament. So you predict them to get quite far anyway, but obviously after what happened to Christian Eriksen, I think, understandably, I think a lot of people start to think, could Denmark do anything in this tournament? And they've definitely seemed to have ridden a wave of emotion to get to the semi-final. But I think last night was probably a game too far for Denmark, because to me, for large parts of that second half and the duration of extra time, they just looked out on the feet.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was a case of a game too far. I think obviously they played in Baku as well, which is an absolute trek. I think they probably got just right to be a bit like not the happiest about being forced to play in Baku. I mean, that it's not even Europe really, you know, it's Asia at the end of the day. Baku, it's a long way. I think probably like a 5-hour flight from Wembley, I would imagine, from London, I would imagine there. So that probably didn't help, and the long flight out there as well, you know. But I think for me, one of the big points is the fact that they didn't have the same level of quality to bring off the bench. I think Denmark's starting 11 is really, really good. They've got a lot of good players in there. But then I think some of the substitutes just simply weren't at the same level as well. Like the likes of obviously Christiansen went off. He was amazing in the game, I thought, in the tournament as well. The Chelsea setup. They brought on, was it Anderson? And I thought he just wasn't at the same level. I think he plays over in the Danish league, and it's just too much of a step up, you know. And a few of the other players that they brought on as well. I mean, Pearson, obviously, is a Bundesliga kind of like cult hero, but he's not the same level, really. Do you know what I mean? Pearson, I thought he didn't do great when he came on. Daniel Vass probably didn't do that great either, the Valencia player. I think, yeah, they didn't have the quality to replace the players that started, basically, for me. That was a big issue as well. And I think, obviously, they were tired. The coach, Hjelund, noticed that, and he made the subs, but it didn't work. That was the problem, you know. And I think that was what ultimately led to the big class difference, probably from 60 minutes onwards, really, for me.
Yeah, I agree. I just thought, I kept making a point during the second half, the more that because Denmark made their 5 changes, well, the majority of them quite early. England had the luxury of making 3 substitutions in extra time. And also, that was the key. When you can bring on the likes like John Henson came on, did a solid job. Phil Foden brought a lot of energy into that extra time. I think that, like you said, that was quite telling in the end, weren't it? That when you can bring quality and energy like that into the game at such a key point, it's going to make a big difference. Just want to move on, Gary in the comments, evening gents, how we recovered from last night. What do you make of the team selection? A few people in the pub I was in were complaining that it was flat in midfield, but can't complain in the end. Yeah, in terms of recovery, I'm fine. I didn't have anything to drink all last night, surprisingly. Very tired though. Ended up staying up to watch the Peter Crouch show on BBC after it to see a lot of people celebrating. That was really good fun to watch. And then back to bed, ready for another day of grind of work. But what do you make of the comment, Mark, regarding England's midfield? Do you agree with that, or do you think it's a bit harsh?
Yeah, to be honest with you, to a very small extent, I would say that Rice has been outstanding in the tournament for me. But I think Phillips has, in my opinion, been a little bit overrated since the first game, to be honest with you. I'd say I can see a shout for putting Henderson in there for the final ahead of Phillips, to be honest with you. It would be very, very harsh on Phillips because, I mean, for his first tournament, obviously he's new to the big stage. You know, he has had a good tournament. But I think, obviously, the excitement to the Croatia game, for me, like, kind of made people overrate him a little bit, I would say. And I think he does misplace a few. He's a bit wasteful at times with his shooting, and I think he does. For me, he plays too many long passes at times as well. Like I like when England play these kind of short, swift passes. You know, this kind of continental style. I think Phillips likes to kind of drop those kind of like Hollywood balls, so to speak, too much for my liking at times. Don't get me wrong. I rate him as a player. I think he's a really good player, but I would like to see maybe Henderson come in for the final, to be honest. I think obviously it's not the most creative midfield you're ever going to see in a football team, is it? But it does seem to work for me. I think the other thing is that I would also like to see Saka not start in the final as well. I'm a big fan of Grealish, and I think he's been a bit hard done to in this tournament. And I think this final is just made for Grealish, to be honest with you. We saw what he did again. It's no coincidence that the two games when Saka's gone off against Germany, he went off and we scored twice within like 10 minutes. And then we won the game after Saka went off against Denmark and started to dominate after that as well. For me, despite having again, he's had a good tournament for a 20-year-old. But my issue with him is that he's very raw and he loses the ball way too much for me as well, Saka. And I would like to see Grealish in there myself for the final. But they'd be the two changes I'd make. I'd take out Phillips and put Henderson in, and I'd take out Saka and put Grealish in. But that'd be my only changes for the final. Really.
Yeah, I can get your point about Calvin Phillips. So yeah, for me, he has had a really good tournament. I think Rice has been by far the better of the two holding field players. But I think what Calvin Phillips brings to the team for me is a lot of energy, a lot more mobility in the midfield as opposed to Rice. But Rice is a battler. Phillips is a battler as well. But I think Phillips does bring a lot more energy to the table, even more so on Henderson as well. But I think, yeah, the experience of Henderson could be crucial in that final, but I think personally, the team that's got us there will be the one that start, and I think Phillips will get the nod. Saka, I'm unsure about whether he'll get a start or not. You can't really knock his performances. Still relatively young and finding his way in the game, but yeah, he's had a great tournament for me. I think it'd be quite harsh if he wouldn't have had some involvement during the final, whether that's starting or off the bench. But yeah, I think everyone wants to see a bit more of Grealish in this tournament, and whether Southgate gives us that to us or not is a different story. Couple more comments on the England game before we move on to the other second semi-final. Rory, the occasion got to England early on after a bright 5 minutes, going a goal down, however, and coming back showed superb character. Yeah, I was saying that to a couple of people today. I think the fact that England going behind and coming back showed, to me, demonstrated a lot more than thumping Ukraine 4-0. I think we can take a lot more from last night's performance, and knowing we can come from behind and being in an adverse situation, I think that bodes well for Sunday. I think we learned a lot more about that team last night than from the Ukraine game, personally. Anyway, final comment on the England game from Chris Saunders. So buzzing from last night, but nervous for the final. I think Italy have been incredible this tournament, but Spain gave them a game. Can England do it? We'll cover the final a bit more later on, Chris. We'll start off with our predictions on it then. So make sure you stick around for the later part of the show, and we'll talk about the final in more detail and offer our predictions on whether England can do it. And one more comment from John Fleming. Hello, chaps. Has Mark got Dutch Beagle for us?
They've forgotten about football in Germany now. Like, I think they don't even know what football is anymore. Yeah, after the England game, that was it. You know, like, they've completely forgotten about it. Yeah.
Just on the subject of Der Spiegel, Mark, obviously, like, what's been the German reaction to England getting to the final?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, as I said earlier, like, a lot of Germans were really, really cheesed off with the way the England fans behaved in that game. Like, to be honest, the Germans are very gracious people in general. They're not like us Brits, you know. Like, a lot of them, for example, a lot of them congratulated me on the team and everything, and they said, "Well done, England deserved it," and stuff like that. But one thing that they really couldn't understand was the booing of the anthem, the situation with the little girl as well in the Germany shirt, and all the fans were cheering and then saying awful things on Twitter and things like that. I mean, this is like a real. I would agree with them. I can understand why they're not happy with that, to be honest with you. And it's kind of embarrassing from a British perspective, really, that they did, especially the stuff with the little girl. You know, I mean, that was just too far at the end of the day. I think, the Germans are. To be honest, it was kind of very much what they expected with the German team as well, because I think most of them knew that Joachim Löw was like well past it by the tournament, and they're just happy to see the back of him and getting Hansi Flick in. And I think on the 1st of August he officially takes over, and I think they hope he's going to kind of start a renaissance of German football, because the last 2 tournaments they've been absolutely garbage. But to be honest, I do think the majority of the Germans will be shouting on Italy on Sunday, that's for sure. Like, I watched the German coverage last night, and it said who will win the game, and I think 70% said Denmark will win the game on the poll. So I think that was more the heart rather than the head, you know.
Yeah, I say the England fan base, especially the ones who follow them at major tournaments, aren't well renowned for being the classiest bunch of fans. But yeah, there's been some embarrassing moments. We've had, obviously, the booing of national anthems, the mockery of the little girl at the England-Germany game. And obviously, last night, again, we had the laser pen being shown at Kasper Schmeichel, didn't we, just before the penalty. So yeah, the England fans don't seem to ever cover themselves in glory. But again, it's always the small minority that reflect the majority of the fan base, sadly. And yeah, they have shown us up a little bit at times during this tournament, sadly. One more comment before we move on. So great result for England last night, as John Flynn, by the way. Really has lifted the mood of the country. Whatever happens, this team have made the history and should be remembered fondly. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's first major final in 55 years. So yeah, they definitely deserve every bit of recognition they get. And obviously, hopefully they can go out one step further and cement their legacy on Sunday. Again, we'll cover the final a little bit more later on in the show. Evening, Ben, as well. I think Grealish and Foden will start in the final ahead of Saka and Mount. We'll come back to, again, I said a couple of times, we'll come back to the final a little bit later in the show. We'll offer predictions on starting lineups and who should be starting and whatnot a little bit later on. And Chris as well about Der Spiegel. One day he'll have the newspaper for us, John. Yeah, for the Bundesliga show, Mark, I think you have to give the fans what they want and start bringing you newspapers for the next for the forthcoming season. Make sure
we can have a special Der Spiegel kind of part of the show on the Bundesliga, so make sure you watch it there.
Yeah, I'll make sure I've got a copy of the Rochdale Observer and the Manchester Evening News for the forthcoming season. But we'll move on to Italy versus Spain. So a game that went all the way to penalties the other night. Obviously, Italy coming out on top 4-2 on penalties. What did you make of the game, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't really go the way I expected. I thought Spain massively exceeded my expectations. I thought Spain were brilliant, to be honest with you, in the game. I mean, to be honest with you, for me, they should have won that game, really, in all honesty. They had enough chances, you know. It was one of them. I think Donnarumma had a really good game, but I think Spain were absolutely brilliant, to be honest, in the game. Obviously, I think they were lucky to be in the semi-final, to be honest. I didn't think they'd been that great before that game. They come through, obviously, extra time against Croatia, penalties against Switzerland. But then for me, that was their best performance. It just sums up like what football's like, really, doesn't it? Like, you play pretty average throughout the tournament, and then you play your best game and you end up getting knocked out, you know. But again, I think that says a lot about the Italian character as well, because they are like, they're absolute walls, you know. They're 32 games unbeaten now. The Jorginho penalty at the end just summed up the Italian mentality, really, and just how much of a task England have got on their hands when they play them on Sunday. I mean, it wasn't the Italians' best performance, but there were still good moments. I thought it was a really high-quality game, to be honest with you. I thought some of the football was brilliant. I think like some of the defending was brilliant. Like Bonucci and Chiellini is just an absolute rock of a centre-half pairing, isn't it? I think obviously the fact that Spinazzola didn't start could have been a bit of a problem for them. I thought Chiesa was really good for Italy. Like he's looking like a real player. Chiesa, he's been probably one of the players of the tournament. Yeah, but for me, it was again Morata. Obviously, got the equaliser, but it was just so typical that it was going to be Morata that missed the decisive penalty, wasn't it? Because I mean, he ended up the tournament with 3 goals, so he's not had a complete disaster of a tournament. But I mean, he just never inspires confidence, Morata, does he? I don't know why. There's just something with him that just doesn't inspire confidence. And I think in the end, obviously, he misses the decisive penalty with a shocking penalty, really saved by Donnarumma. But yeah, I mean. Yeah, Italy go to the final.
Yeah, I think when you say about Morata, then yeah, he's got 3 goals. When you look at the sheer volume of chances he's had, he should have a damn right more than 3 goals, and he should be leading a striker. Any other striker, say Harry Kane would have been given as many chances as Morata did, and the same level of chances, Harry Kane would be running away with that golden boot. That's my personal opinion, anyway. But I thought Luis Enrique was quite brave in the decision he took in terms of the lineup. Obviously going without a recognised striker and going with like the 3 attacking midfielders of Olmo, Rasaban and Torres. A bit of a change of approach. And I think when you look at the comments that are being made on, I think it was ITV, the game, weren't they? And the fact that they didn't really fancy sticking an out-and-out striker up against Bonucci and Chiellini, which is understandable. I think if he'd have put Morata on from the start against those two, they'd have been isolated, and I think he'd have embarrassed himself a little bit more than he has done throughout the whole tournament. But I think it was a really good decision from Luis Enrique. I think going toe-to-toe with the Italians and trying to take on those 2 stalwarts at the back, it'd have been a big ask for Morata. I know he got the goal in the end, but I think if they'd gone with Morata from the start of the game, I think Italy might have got a bit more of an easier foothold in that game. Italy, like you said, Mark, it's a very strong Italian side. It weren't their best performance, but there's been quite a few arguments from people saying, yeah, they walked the group stage, but 2 of their 3 knockout games have been far from convincing. Obviously, laboured against the Austrian team. They looked good against Belgium, but then Tuesday night, weren't it now? Weren't at their best against Spain. Would you agree with the fact that they've not been at their best throughout these knockouts?
To be honest, no, I wouldn't really, to be honest. I think at the end of the day, we know that this isn't an Italian side that's absolutely star-studded at the end of the day. I mean, the 2 most famous players before this tournament were the centre-halves, Chiellini and Bonucci. I mean, we know that the Italians, they always have, like, world-class centre-halves, really, don't they? But, I mean, for me, they've been playing... I think Austria were brilliant in that game, to be honest. Obviously, I keep an eye on Austria because of the Bundesliga contingent. I thought they were absolutely brilliant in that game against Italy. And I think Italy, they found a way to win against a good Austria side for me. Then I thought against Belgium, that was probably one of the performances of the tournament, if not the performance of the tournament. I thought they were brilliant. I didn't think Belgium were bad in that game. I just thought Italy played really, really well throughout the game. And then I think even the other day, I think it was more... I don't think Italy were bad by any means. I just think Spain were very, very good. And I think Italy showed their defence, more the traditional Italian. I thought it was more of a traditional Italian performance, really, the game. On Tuesday night, I thought they were more defensive. Obviously, I think they only got 30% possession against Spain. So, yeah, I mean, it was a much more back to the wall kind of performance against the Spanish, who just dominate possession against pretty much everyone, don't they? So, no, I wouldn't really agree that they've struggled through. I think they played really well. They've had a really hard draw as well. You've got to remember. I mean, they played Belgium, who were a lot of people's favourites. They played Spain, who are always going to be hard to knock out of the tournament. They played Austria, who are probably one of the most underrated teams in the tournament. So I think they've had a hard knockout. So it's probably harder than England's, to be honest with you, by quite a way, really, I would say.
I wouldn't agree with that. I think England have had... It's not been the hardest, but it's also been not easy either. I think the group stage, obviously, Croatia, World Cup finals in 2018. Obviously, Scotland, who had their cup final against England and then supported every other team since they've played us. And then, obviously, Czech Republic, who obviously got to quarterfinals with the good side of merit. I think the weakest team we have played is Ukraine by some margin, but I think both teams have got to this final on merit, and they've both had really tough draws to get there. I'd say Italy's just about edges it, but I don't think anyone can really disrespect the teams that England have faced had to get there. Personally, anyway. we'll have a focus on Spain, seeing as they put in their performance of the tournament, and obviously it weren't enough. But where do you think the problem lies for Spain, and where they couldn't get this over the line on Tuesday?
Again, it's the finishing. They just don't. They don't shoot enough. Spain. That's one problem. Like they just want to. They want to score the perfect goal all the time. You know. I mean, we know about the Spanish style, the tiki-taka, and they do play amazing football even now. Obviously, this isn't like the best Spain side we've seen in the last 20 years or so. But I mean, they can still play. That's for sure. I think, to be honest, there wasn't much wrong with the performance on Tuesday night. It was just the fact that, yeah, sometimes you need to have a shot, you know, when you're in a good position. You can get a deflection and it can go in. I think you can't always try and pass the perfect goal in every single time. I mean, the goal they did score was a really good goal, a really good team move, obviously finished off by Morata. But I think, yeah, for me, I thought the defence was excellent as well. I thought, obviously, Eric Garcia and Laporte. So I thought Laporte had a really good tournament, to be honest with me. I think, obviously, Garcia went off and was replaced by Pau Torres, who also had a good game. I mean, obviously, the defence has been kind of much maligned in this tournament, but I didn't really quite see that it was as bad as what a lot of people said. I think against Croatia at the end of the game, yeah, that was unacceptable, really. But you're going to concede goals in football. You know, you can't be expecting to keep clean sheets in every game. I think, yeah, the midfield, I thought Pedri had a brilliant tournament for me. I thought Kolke was good. Busquets looked back close to his best as well, I thought. I think for me, it was just a matter of, yeah, they need to shoot a little bit more in good positions, you know. And I think the other thing is probably Morata just didn't finish enough chances. And probably even Moreno, when he played, also didn't finish enough chances as well.
Yeah, I think as well, to probably throw in there, so I think I weren't convinced by Unai Simon during the whole tournament either. He seemed a bit of a liability at times, but I don't know if that's because I really want to see Robert Sanchez get a run out for Spain first. But yeah, I think, like I said, I think Pedri was a standout performer of that team, and obviously Laporte as well. I think Jordi Alba had a steady tournament. I think his advancing years might slowly catching up to him now. But yeah, whilst we're on the topic of Spain, Mateo in the comments, hola amigos, we didn't expect Spain to get as far as we did. Enrique is not the most popular manager and we have striker problems, but the team did well and the country is proud. Yeah, I think both of us marked our pre-tournament predictions. I don't think any of us had Spain past the quarterfinals, did we? So, yeah, I think Spain should be proud of their performance, and obviously they've got a lot to build on there. And I think, like I said, the striker issue is the main problem for Spain. Get that sorted, and they'll be back firing at the next. Obviously, we've got the World Cup a year away, so if they can get a striker banging in goals at the right time, they'll be fine come that tournament. Italy. Back to Italy, continue this ridiculous run that they're currently on. Yet to taste defeat since the 10th of September 2018, they lost in the Nations League away to Portugal. So that kind of sums up the kind of challenge that faces England on Sunday. We'll completely lost track of the days then. But yeah, Mark, in terms of this Italian form, what do you think is that driving factor behind it? Do you think Mancini's the driving force behind it? I think Italy have got a much better team there than what they did in 2018 when they didn't even qualify for the World Cup?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, really. But I would say, yeah, Mancini, without doubt, has been a massive unifying force for the Italians. You know, I mean, they'd had a number of years, I would say, probably close to 10 years since they obviously won the World Cup in 2006. I think they had a good run in 2012 at the Euros, which was obviously they were battered by Spain in that final. But yeah, for me, this is the best Italian side probably since 2006, I would say. And I think, yeah, Mancini's got to take a lot of credit for that at the end of the day. I think, again, the team is based on a very, very solid defence, and I think an excellent goalkeeper in Donnarumma as well. I think, obviously, a lot of people didn't really know that much about Donnarumma because he'd spent all his career at Milan and they'd not really played in the Champions League for a good while now. But I think he's proved to everyone that the hype was real, to be honest, for Donnarumma. I think he's had a great tournament. Obviously, he's not going to win the Golden Glove, but he's been probably the best or second best goalkeeper in the tournament, I would say. I think, yeah, that defensive partnership of Bonucci and Chiellini is still absolutely rock solid. I think I was a little bit surprised that Locatelli got dropped, to be honest with you, after a brilliant group stage. I mean, for me, Verratti is one of those players that kind of like divides opinion of it, because obviously he is a live wire, he'll keep running, but at the same time, I don't know if he's that good technically at times, to be honest with you. I mean, I thought Locatelli was absolutely brilliant in the group, and obviously he's not started any of the knockout games, so it'd be interesting to see if we see him back in the final. I think as for the forward line, there's been every game, there's been someone who's had a great game. I mean, Lorenzo Insigne has had a great tournament as well. I mean, obviously, he's another one that kind of is a bit hit and miss for Napoli, but I think he's been brilliant. I think Chiesa, obviously, Juventus, has been brilliant in the tournament. Barella, been really, really good. I think, yeah, I mean, it's been a team effort. Every game seems to have been a different player that's like having a world-class performance for them, really. So, obviously, Spinazzola is definitely a miss, with obviously Emerson replacing him against Spain. I didn't think he had quite the same impact as what Spinazzola had. So maybe he's an area where England can exploit on Sunday, really.
Yeah, I think the Locatelli thing might be down to the fact that he's been linked with Arsenal. I think any player Arsenal are obviously going to suffer as a result of that. Yeah, that Bonucci-Chiellini partnership, I think a lot of fans outside of Italy might be glad this tournament's over, because I think by the time the World Cup rocks around next year, both of those will hopefully be near retirement age for outside perspective. Obviously, Chiellini 36. I think Bonucci is around about the same point. Well, 34, Bonucci. So they might have another tournament in them, but I think when Euro 2024 rocks around, I'd be very surprised if that's our centre-back partnership. But knowing the rest of Europe's luck, they'll have discovered the next best centre-back in Europe, probably. I think is Maldini's son.
Yeah, but I don't think he's a defender, is he? I don't think he's a defender, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably wrong there, but yeah, you'd assume he might have taken after his father's footsteps, but if he hasn't, I'm sure he'll be a great player regardless.
Acerbi's looked good, though, when he's played as well. Acerbi, I think he's like the kind of backup. He's been good as well when he played. I think Chiellini got an injury for the Wales game or something. He looked pretty good as well. So
yeah,
they're never short of centre-halves, Italy, are they? That's for sure.
So another player I've been really impressed with in an Italian perspective is Domenico Berardi, the right winger. I think he's been quite unfortunate not to get as much game time after the group stages as well. But again, he's another player that's sort of time aside. I think he's all like 25, 26, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, he's still got quite a lot of tournament football for Italy moving forward. Just a couple of comments, Mark, regarding Donnarumma. Obviously, seen his praises, but Matteo, it's a shame Donnarumma is going to Paris because he should be playing a big league for a serious team. It's sad he's just moved to Paris for the money. Dan Green's agreement, PSG could ruin his career, he won't develop as well, like playing against poor competition each match. Yeah, when we were talking about Donnarumma, I was going to make that point. I think him moving to PSG is a wasted move. I think obviously PSG is signing quite well at the minute. Donnarumma, also they signed Sergio Ramos today, Hakimi yesterday, so they are looking like they mean business for next season. Pochettino's first full season, but yeah, they are going to be playing in a farmers league, a really poor standard. I know Lille did well to upset the apple cart this year in Ligue 1, but yeah, I think for players like Donnarumma, they should be playing either like La Liga or the Premier League, the elite levels of football. I think if Donnarumma had moved to say like Bayern or obviously PSG, it's a bit of a sideways move in it, going to leagues that are elite level. So yeah.
Don't tell a Bundesliga man that, you know.
Yeah, I say about the Bundesliga being a farmers league, but
to be honest, for me, you should have stayed at Milan, to be honest with you, or in Italy, really. Like, I think it's, I agree totally that, like, PSG is just a ridiculous move, because it's like, I think they even announced when he signed that Keylor Navas is still going to be the #1 for next year. I rate Keylor Navas, but why are they signing him? Clearly they're just signing him to hoard players. Do you know what I mean? I don't like the tactics of PSG at times, and in general as a club, they're pretty not the most likable. Let's just say that.
Yeah, trying not to get off topic, but just regarding PSG, I have no idea how they fall in line with financial fair play.
Yeah, same.
Obviously, Ramos, Hakimi, Donnarumma won't be on peanuts. They obviously got Mbappe, Neymar, just to name another couple of players. Well, Di Maria won't be on peanuts either. No. So, yeah, I don't understand how they manage it, but, you know, yeah, we'll leave it at that just before we get off topic. Right, we're going to move on to the final. Does feel pretty weird as an England fan saying England are in the final. It's been 24 hours nearly, but yeah, it does still feel pretty weird to be talking about England in a major final. So I know we got to the Nations League semi-finals and World Cup, but that's not really a competition, is it? So, but yeah, Mark, where do we start with this final? What are you expecting from the game on Sunday?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, for me, it's pretty much 50-50 as things stand, really. I've been saying, I think, for me, it's take your pick, basically. I don't think there's a massive advantage for either side. There are pros and cons to both teams winning this game at the end of the day. You know, I think, obviously, England have got home advantage. They've got probably a better striking line. You know, I think that you'd rather have the likes of Sterling and Kane at the end of the day over the likes of Immobile and Berardi, probably, despite them having good tournaments and they are capable players. But at the end of the day, like Sterling and Kane are like undoubtedly world class, really. I think probably where Italy are probably stronger is the back line. I would still say, even though Stones and Mcguire is a good partnership, I would still say that Bonucci and Chiellini is better for me. And I would still say that Donnarumma is better than Pickford as well for me overall. I think, yeah, and also I think it's just that mentality of the Italians as well. You know, they're infamously famous to be coming into this game on the back of a 32-game unbeaten run, which goes back, what, almost 3 years now. So that's the kind of size of the task that's on England's plate at the minute, you know. But at the same time, England have got this brilliant crowd behind them. You know, they've got quality, they've got belief as well. And I think there's no doubt that England do have the quality to win it. I think we're never going to get a better chance in this at the end of the day. It's at Wembley. We're playing a good team, but do you know what I mean? They are beatable at the end of the day. We've got to believe that they're beatable, and we've got to go for them from the first minute for me, really, you know.
Yeah, I think one thing that's making me feel quite excited about Sunday is the fact that this England team, the players like Southgate, like obviously under Southgate, they just seem to be tearing up all these issues that England have had in the past, like not being able to beat Germany. We've ticked that off. Yeah. Not conceding a goal to the semi-finals, tick that off. We've won in a semi-final for the first time since 1966. We can tick that off. It was probably our strongest group stage performance in a very long time. It just feels like this England team have finally putting the big issues that we've had in the past behind us. And I'm trying not to get carried away about Sunday. And it's very easy for us to, given the occasion last night and everything that's gone on previously about beating Germany and whatnot, it's very easy to get carried away. I can't really criticise any England fans for getting carried away, because after everything we've been through in the last 16 months, I know it's been a worldwide issue, but obviously COVID, but from a selfish point of view within England, we deserve a bit of good fortune for a change, don't we? And do you think the Wembley crowd's going to play a huge part on Sunday night? I think that could be the difference maker between the two teams.
Yeah, I'm not sure I go as far as saying the difference maker, but it'll definitely give England an advantage. For me, one of the key points in this game could be the start, to be honest. England do have a reputation of starting, especially the first 10, 15 minutes, very fast if you look at games, you know. I mean, obviously, they got an early goal against Czech Republic, didn't they? They got an early goal against Ukraine, and they always seem to create a lot of chances in the first 10, 15 minutes, you know. And I think that's the point when the crowd, if they're really, really at it in those first 10, 15 minutes, England could potentially get an early goal. And I think if we do that, I mean, we've got even better chance, you know what I mean? Needless to say. I think England tend to struggle more in games when it goes 0-0 for too long. That's the problem with England. We saw it against Scotland, didn't we? I mean, that was obviously the worst performance of the tournament by a distance, but the game just went 0-0 for too long. We had two great chances early on. I think it was it Mcguire or Stones' header? I think it was a Stones' header, wasn't it? If we'd have scored that, we'd probably got on to win 3-0 for me in that game. But we didn't. And when the games go on too long at 0-0, that's when England struggle for me, really. So I think we do have to push for that early goal, to be honest with you. I'd like to see us go for that. And then obviously Italy got to come out of the shell. I wouldn't be surprised to see Italy set up in a similar way to against Spain, to be honest with you. I think they will be happy to let England have probably most of the ball for me. But I think obviously we're not as good at keeping the ball as the Spanish. So it's obviously that the midfield is going to be massive as well in that front.
Yeah, I think you're hitting the nail on the head there when you're saying about the fast starts. And I think the first goal on Sunday will be crucial. So if England get it, it makes Italy come out and play a little bit more, be a bit more attacking, a bit more forward thinking. And that will suit us down to the ground. But I think the longer the game goes 0-0, or if Italy get the early goal or get the lead, that I think we could I think we could be in for a long evening if Italy get the first goal, especially if it's early doors as well. But yeah, I think that first goal is going to be absolutely massive on Sunday. I know it's a bit of a cliche in football, but yeah, it's going to be a big moment on Sunday when that first goal goes in. I think I'm not saying go on the limb, but I think whoever gets that first goal for me on Sunday will be the team that go on to lift the trophy personally, for my money anyway. In terms of the game itself, then Mark, we'll have a look at the lineup. I think you've already touched it previously, but apart from the Saka and Phillips changes, is there any other change that we should expect or you'd want to see?
No, I think obviously Shaw, I was quite I've never really been a fan of Luke Shaw, but this tournament has really changed my opinion on him. I mean, I've always preferred Chilwell to Shaw overall, but I think Shaw has been one of our standout players in the tournament, so I keep him in there. Also, Kyle Walker, to be honest, I would have preferred early in the tournament, I wanted to see Reece James start at right back, to be honest with you. But I think, again, Walker, he does have that experience and he has had a very good tournament as well for me. So I would the back line has got to stay the same. Obviously, Pickford stays the same. Again, touching on it again, I might be being a little bit harsh on Phillips to say drop him, but sometimes you've got to be harsh, And I think Henderson, when he's come on off the bench in games, I've been impressed with him. I think he's done well every time he's come off the bench in games. And I would like to see him start, personally. But I wouldn't be like really gutted if Phillips starts. But I would like to give Henderson a chance. And yeah, for me, the one that's got to go definitely is still Saka, to be honest. And again, while he has had a good tournament for what he's kind of come in from, I just don't want to see Arsenal players in the starting lineup for a Euros final, basically. I mean, obviously Arsenal, I mean, they're well known for being a team that they're not exactly known for bottle, are they? And I think that kind of, I'd like to see Grealish. I just think he's made for a European final. He's just going to lap that up, and he's going to love the attention, and I think he's going to perform if we start him, for me.
Yeah, I think Grealish definitely offers that no fear factor. But like you were saying about some of these decisions that Southgate's got to make, I think he has proven throughout the whole tournament he's not scared to make the big calls in terms of team selection. Like, he's not bowed down to the public pressure and pundit pressure to play Grealish more. Nobody wanted Sterling to start the tournament, but he's probably been our best player throughout the whole tournament. And yeah, like obviously the Trippier playing at left back in the first tournament. So, and obviously the big one last night was substituting Jack Grealish as well. Yeah. Which I think does take a lot of bottle to do, especially in the semi-final, and especially the darling of English football at the minute in Jack Grealish. So, yeah, it was a very brave decision from Southgate last night to change the system and bring off Grealish, because I don't think many people would have been too happy if England would have gone on to throw that lead away, would they? In terms of the approach to the game, Mark, what do you think England need to do to beat this Italy side?
Yeah, again, I think it's got to be a fast start, basically. For me, this is really, really key, because every single game, I can't even remember the last time I watched an England game and we didn't start fast, which is a great, not just this tournament. I think it was a feature of the last World Cup as well, that we were starting games fast too. Obviously, with the Trippier free kick against England, but against Croatia, sorry. But yeah, for me, we've got to start fast. And I think if we can get that goal, then we can do it. I think the key is going to be probably the midfield battle as well. I think, obviously, that's why part of the reason why I'd stick Henderson in, because for me, he's more of a kind of all-round midfielder rather than Phillips, And I think possession is going to be key as well. And for me, Phillips gives possession away a little bit too much, along with Saka as well. You don't want these Italians to get too much possession, because they will just... They can keep possession when they get enough of the ball, the Italians, And I think we don't. Obviously, it's a final. We're going to be a little bit tired because we've played 6-7 games in the space of a short time. So I think it's key. Possession could be key as well. But yeah, for me, the fast start is absolutely vital, really. And also, Pickford has got to show a little bit more confidence early on in the game as well, because he didn't show that against Denmark for me.
Yeah, I think the problem with Pickford is, I was going to mention this earlier, but completely slipped. Might be saying it then, it's reminding me. And he starts the game confident. As soon as he makes one little error, he wobbles. Like the Ukraine game on Saturday, he made a bit of a hash of one clearance, and then it just felt like he just felt like his game had gone to pot as a result of it. It just looked like all the hard work and confidence that he gained had just gone out the window. But yeah. Hopefully it does turn up on Sunday, and I think a lot of that England team will. And I agree with the need to attack from the off. Just a couple of comments, and I'll come back to the final in a minute, and we'll get our predictions. Calling from Gary, whatever happens on Sunday, everyone in England just needs to relax and try to enjoy the occasion. If we lose, it's nothing to be ashamed about. We've had an awful 18 months. This is something to enjoy. And John Fleming as well, agreeing with Gary there. I agree 100% with that, Gary. I think on Sunday, I think everyone is going to be nervous going into the game, but I think what we need to remember, we've come quite a long way in a short space of time, this squad. So I think just enjoy the occasion on Sunday. If we lift the trophy, it'll be absolutely incredible. But I think even if we lose, it'll sting, won't it? But I think Southgate and the squad have given a lot to cheer about and be proud of during this summer, and it's given a lot of people an excuse to take their mind off things like COVID and whatnot. I know like the end's in sight with that in terms of lockdowns and whatnot, but yeah, it'll definitely give us a nice welcome distraction. Gary as well, please God, don't let it go to penalties. We'll take it. Yeah, so if that goes to penalties on Sunday, I think it'll be the most tense bit of football witnessed Rochdale's penalty shootout getting to the playoffs. So I don't recall feeling as tense at a game of football in my life, but yeah, I think if it goes to penalties on Sunday, I think that could rival it, to be fair. Ben Morris, I agree with Mark about Arsenal players. Why do we want serial losers to be sat in a big final? However, Saka looks a great talent. Yeah, I think it's only a matter of time until Saka leaves Arsenal, and knowing Arsenal, probably some shite part exchange deal with United for Dan James being involved or something daft like that, where probably United will get 10 million in Saka in exchange for Dan James. Something ridiculous, won't it? But yeah, I'm kind of inclined to agree about that, and I think Saka could be a good option off the bench with his energy later on. But yeah, I think we probably need to go with someone a bit more experienced on Sunday. Dan Green also offering about Saka. He won't be at Arsenal long term, and the big club will sign him. I think over the bars, Paul said the same on Twitter, and Arsenal fans didn't like it, but it's true. Yeah, I'm sure the clientele of Arsenal Fan TV or AFTV, whatever it's called these days, won't be happy with us saying that, and probably start saying blood and fam at every other point. But I think Saka won't be at Arsenal long term. Would you agree with that, Matt? I think Saka's destined for bigger things in Arsenal.
Yeah. Again, the Arsenal fans really won't appreciate that, but obviously Arsenal as a club have fallen like miles and miles the last 4 or 5 years since Wenger left the club. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's just they are a poor side nowadays, and I guess like maybe even this year someone might want to go in for him. You know, maybe even someone on the continent. I think he's the kind of player that someone on the continent might even be interested in, to be honest with you. But yeah, obviously if he wants to stay in England, yeah, I guess. Yeah, someone like United might go in for him, but I would say he probably still needs a year or two to mature his game a little bit at Arsenal yet before getting that big move, so to speak.
Yeah, I think no said United. I think the Dan James Saka swap deals on. You heard it here first, anyway. What we'll do is we'll jump into the questions we've had in on Twitter. So thank you very much, Trevor, for sending those in. We are going to offer our predictions for the final because we've had that question coming a couple of times. So we'll offer our prediction on the final for Sunday in response to one of the questions we've had coming about that. First question was from Matteo about Spain. What did you make of the Spain-Italy semi-final? And did you think the right team won on the night? I think we've already kind of covered it, Mark. But would you say, in a quick one, you think the better team won on the night?
No, I think Spain, as I said, I think Spain were the better team. I thought they were brilliant on the night, actually. I was really impressed with them. I felt bad for them in the end, but I think, like, again, it's that Italian mentality that obviously England are going to have to come up against on Sunday as well. They just know how to dig out results, don't they? And that's what they did against Spain. But for me, no, I would say that Italy been the better team in the tournament overall, but Spain were definitely the better team on the night. No question for me.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think Spain put in a tremendous performance. Obviously, weren't enough on the night, unfortunately. Next question's in from Ben Morris. 2 questions, and this is where the prediction will come in the second part. But first one, what do you make of the Grealish sub on, sub off? Like I said earlier, I think it was a very brave call from Southgate, personally. I think it took a lot of character to do that, because obviously Grealish being the current darling of English football, I think that will have upset a few fans. But to change that system, he was never going to take off Sterling with the tournament he's having. And it was the only player who could really bring off. So yeah, I think it took a lot of guts for Gareth to do that. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, I'm not sure it was necessary completely, though, to be honest with you, because I think obviously he wanted to bring a more. Obviously, Southgate, he does always have that kind of defensive mindset, doesn't he? I think England are not a defensive team, but he is a defensive. He's got a defensive mindset for me, Southgate. He will obviously he was a centre back, so he's always going to have that kind of thing in the back of his mind. I think for me, it probably wasn't necessary, and as a result of that, I'm not sure it's going to have done Grealish's confidence much good. But again, he got the result at the end of the day. So I guess to an extent it paid off. But for me, it probably wasn't fully necessary because Denmark looked completely spent for me by the time that sub was made, really.
Yeah, I think that second half as well. I get why they were doing it, but I was a bit frustrated. There was so many chances where England could probably gone and got a third. There were times where they were just one pass away from being clean through on goal, and take it towards the corner flag, and personally, I'd prefer to have seen them get the third goal and really kill the game off, because I think it was like one of the last kicks of the game. Denmark put a really good ball into the box, and I was proper crapping myself thinking Denmark were going to get the equaliser. But yeah, I think there needed to be a bit more. I think the killer instinct from England. I think they need to show that on Sunday, personally. And here comes the prediction, Mark. So, is it coming home? So, what's your prediction for Sunday?
Oh, yeah. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw after 120 minutes and then England to win on penalties. Yeah. I just think I can't separate the teams, and I just can't, with it being England as well, I just can't see anything. I definitely think it'll go to 100 to extra time. I cannot see. I think if you've got any money, stick it on the draw in 90 minutes for me. That's the smart money. Yeah. I'm going to go 1-1 after 90 minutes and then England to win on penalties. Yeah, I don't know why I'm saying England, but I just think they can do it this time.
Yeah, I'm going to go with an England win, but I think they'll get it done in 90 minutes. I'm going to go with 1-0 England, slap head off a corner, and just burst the ball with his head and get it in. But that's my prediction: 1-0 England. Harry Mcguire to score the winning goal. And to be fair, I think it'd be quite a nice moment if Harry Mcguire was to get the winner. I think everyone has a bit of a soft spot for Mcguire, don't they? Because of the whole slabhead comments. But yeah, I'd be quite happy to see that. Next question in from Dan Green. What is your England starting 11 for the final? So I think you've already touched on it, Matt, what yours would be, but would you stick the same system and the changes you made, they're the ones you set on?
Yeah, it's got to be the same system. Yeah, for me, the 4 at the back works better nowadays. I think it's a more modern formation again. Obviously, we experimented a little bit with the 5 at the back, but we didn't seem to do as well with that. So it's got to be the same formation. Yeah, as I said, the only I'd change Phillips for Henderson and then Saka for Grealish for me. That would be the only changes, and keep the formation the same. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I think the formation will stay the same, but I can see Saka being replaced with Phil Foden. I think that could be a game that's made for Foden on Sunday. Especially like with his skill, trickery, and his eye for a good pass. I think he'd be quite integral. Obviously, with the left foot cutting in off the right. I think Foden could be a huge player on Sunday if he starts. So I'm going to go with Foden to be the only change for Saka on that one. Last question on Twitter before we move over to the live chat questions. Chris Saunders, do you agree with the foreign press that are all saying Sterling dived?
To an extent, yes, but I think, as we say, for me, it was in keeping with the whole game. Like Denmark players were diving, England players were diving. I think largely the decision falls with the fault of the referee, and I just hope he doesn't referee the final, that guy, to be honest, because I didn't enjoy his refereeing performance one bit. And I think, to be honest, the decision was in keeping with the game for me, so you can't really complain too much. If it had been like a really rough and tumble game and the ref was letting everything go, then he gave a penalty like that at the end, then yeah, I think they could have a good reason to complain. But I think the ref had given absolutely every even slight touch he'd given the whole game. So for me, there was definitely a touch there. So yeah, for me, in keeping with the game, it was a penalty, and I think they just don't want to see England win.
Yeah, I agree. I think the thing that annoys me as well has been penalties of the same standard, and then even softer penalties which haven't been called out as much. throughout the whole tour. I think it's because it's England. I think people kind of want to call it out a little bit more. It was soft, but at the end of the day, there was contact, and it was a penalty for me. But yeah, it was soft. Plus, as well, the amount of key decisions that have gone against us in the past in previous competitions.
Exactly.
Also got the hand of God, the Beckham red card against Argentina in '98. The goal was disallowed in '98 against Argentina. Sol Campbell having a goal ruled out against Portugal.
Yeah,
I think it was 2000.
The biggest one was the Lampard against Germany as well, when it was a yard over the line. That was the biggest of the lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going through chronologically, Mark. You stole my yeah. So it's been obviously the Ronaldo wink as well, and Ronaldo got Rooney sent off. So people could complain all they want, but I think England have had their fair share of big decisions go against us since we last won a trophy. So that's my opinion on that. Heading over to the questions on the live chat, I think we've covered a few as we've gone along. So just to kind of cover them, really. Ben Morris, I think Grealish and Foden will start in the final ahead of Saka and Mount. So both off our predictions, I think we've both got Mount as starting, but we've both got Saka as being dropped. Mark had him for Grealish, but I'm going with Foden. On that, Chris Saunders regarding Italy. Do you think Mancini will change his approach to the final? Italy have had a few injuries, but the system has pretty much been the same. I think he might change things a bit. What do you think on that, Mark?
Yeah, I definitely don't think he'll change the system. Like they played the same system for most of Mancini's time in charge. I think we could potentially see. I think obviously the big decision is obviously Berardi and Locatelli were brilliant in the group stage, but they've not played very much in the knockouts. So I'd be interested to see. I think potentially Berardi could come in for Barella, because Barella didn't have probably his best game against Spain. I would say that he could potentially come in. But I would also say, Locatelli could potentially come in, but it's unlikely because they seem to like Verratti a lot. And obviously, Verratti didn't play the group stage, and Locatelli kind of dropped out in the knockout. So I think the biggest change for them could be Berardi could come back in. He's probably been a bit hard done to. He was very good, and maybe Barella could drop out for me, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with the comment in terms of the tactical approach you made earlier, doors. I think Italy will set up a bit more defensively, personally, and kind of invite us to pressure them a little bit. Question from Johnny. Say who should England watch out for in the final? I think we just kind of covered that. Is there one standout player, Mark, that you're quite frightful of against England?
I would say Chiesa. It seems to have been his tournament, really, doesn't it? Chiesa, he's very much full of energy. He's loved the tournament. He's scored a couple of good goals in the knockout rounds. I think him probably more than anyone. He's the kind of player that could probably knock in a goal from anywhere, really, for me.
Yeah, I think the one that I'm quite looking forward to seeing is Insigne. I've been really impressed in the whole tournament. So I think he'll be, obviously, with him being on the left, he'll be up against either Walker or Trippier, whoever. I think Southgate will start with one of them two, more likely Walker. So I think Walker against Insigne on that side will be a fantastic battle to watch on Sunday. And I think that's pretty much it. I think we've covered every other question that's come in. There's a couple of comments regarding the point I made about the decisions that have gone against us. So Johnny absolutely nailed it there, when you reel them off like that. England have had it rough over the years. And then the final comment from Dan Green, bravo there, Dave, absolutely love that. Reeling off all the times England have been shafted. When it's like, it turns out there's loads of them. Well done, sir. Thank you. Last one from Chris. Take about Dave. One second, I've just clicked on the completely wrong comment. No, there we go. Take about Dave. So many times England have been screwed. Amazing team, or one after the other like that. Preach, brother. To be fair, I think I saw a couple of them on Twitter earlier today. But there's probably some I'm missing anyway. But there's been countless times where England have been I don't say shafted to a point where it's cost us elimination, but where decisions have gone against us. And I think it's about time we had a bit of rub go our way anyway, and hopefully get a little bit more on Sunday. I don't really care how we win that game on Sunday, as long as we lift that trophy. I'm not endorsing cheating, but any way we can bring that trophy home on Sunday, I'm all for. Obviously within reason. That is everything for tonight. So we're heading in towards the climax of Euro 2020. We will be back with one more show after the final, where we'll talk about the final, and we'll do like a review of the whole tournament. We'll talk about our players of the tournament, like breakthrough stars, things like that, and off like our team of the tournament. So make sure you come back and check that out. It'll probably be Monday or Tuesday of next week. Obviously, if England don't win the final, we might take a day or two to lick our wounds regarding that. But, there definitely will be one more Euro 2020 show. It will be a bit of a tournament review. We'll try and get Rory and Paul on for it. We'll try and get as many of the over the bar writers and video content creators on there to offer our thoughts on what has been an absolutely incredible tournament. Like I said, we'll wrap things up there for tonight. Obviously, in the meantime, make sure you are checking out otvfootball.net for all the new articles that are appearing and any football interest that you've got. Also, make sure you follow us all at Twitter at OverTheBarFB. And also make sure you drop us a like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. Just because the Euros are finishing, we're not stopping the video content there. The new EFL season is just a matter of a few weeks away. The Bundesliga season's fast approaching as well, so we've got plenty of great content to come to you guys over the coming weeks and months as we head to the 21-22 season. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Thank you again for all your comments on Twitter and the live chat. We'll see you all next week, and come on England.